Hi everyone and welcome to this video. I'm Glenn and this is episode 5 of the Oathsworn painting series. In this episode I'm painting the Wyrm. If you're new to miniature painting, I hope you find this video interesting and helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below. This tutorial is going to be pretty straightforward. I'm primarily going to use washes and glazes on the skin and in the mouth. Afterwards, I will do some details on the rest, which is pretty much only the teeth and of course the base. As usual, let's see how I went from this white miniature to this fully painted one. Let's begin. First, I remove all the mold lines by using a hobby knife or file. Then I primed the model white by using an airbrush. This can also be applied by using a can of white primer. I started the painting process by making a glaze. The glaze consists of 5 parts Raglan Fleshshade and 10 parts Ruby Violet. The glazes in the following steps act as translucent filters on the white surface, gradually increasing color saturation with each layer applied. This glaze is applied to the entire skin of the model. In the upcoming steps, I'll be adding a few more coats of glazes. It is important to allow each coat to dry completely before applying a new one, to prevent ruining the paint job. If you're looking to speed up the drying process, you can use a hairdryer. However, be sure to maintain good distance from the model to avoid pushing the glaze around. I actually painted this model once. As this video is published, it is about a year since I painted my own model. That was before I had the idea to create these painting tutorials. So to make this video, I reached out to a Danish hobby group on Facebook to see if anyone wanted their Wyrm model painted. This way I could record the process and share it in this video. When the first coat is dry, I proceed to make a new glaze. The new glaze consists of 4 parts Ruby Violet, 2 parts Raglan Fleshshade, 5 parts water and 5 parts Glaze Medium. I applied this as a second coat and this glaze will be used in later steps. I will refer to this as the purple glaze. Ignore the red color in the mouth for now, just keep the mouth white. I'll get to it in a later step. I use a cheap synthetic brush when applying the glazes. When the second coat is dry, I apply a third coat with the purple glaze. This coat is more focused on the areas where I would like it a bit darker, like less exposed areas or in the shadows of the model. I also apply more glaze to some of the recesses on the exposed areas where I find the recesses a bit too light. The third coat is dry and I apply a fourth coat with the purple glaze. This coat is only focused on the less exposed areas or in the shadows of the model. I mix white and warlord purple on the wet palette. To achieve a light pink color, I apply this on the exposed areas of the model by dry brushing. For this technique I use a makeup brush. I apply more purple glaze from the previous steps, but it is only applied to the recesses. This technique helps define the skin. Next I apply scarlet red to all the wounds on the model. I follow up with a mix of scarlet red and black to all the wounds on the model. This is to make a more deep and dark red color. I use a glaze similar to previous steps. This one consists of 8 parts Druzy Violet, 4 parts Raglan Fleshshade and 5 parts Glaze Medium. This is applied to all the wounds. If you have any leftovers of the other purple glaze from the previous steps, you can use that as an alternative. Your model should look something like this if you are following this tutorial. The mouth should be white at this point. I make a red glaze which consists of 4 parts Scarlet Red, 5 parts Glaze Medium and 5 parts water. This glaze is applied to the entire mouth. The red glaze is dry and I apply a coat of the purple glaze from the previous steps. When the first coat of the purple glaze is dry, I apply a second coat with the purple glaze. This coat is more focused on the inner or around the center of the mouth. I want the mouth to appear darker, so I apply a third coat and a fourth coat. I had some issues getting the same tone of color in the mouth as the first model I painted, and I can't remember exactly which order I applied the red and purple glazes, so I decided to repaint the mouth twice. This is the third time painting the mouth, and still it's a bit off. Let's get the speed paints on the table. I mix 3 parts purple and 1 part red. I focus on the inner parts of the mouth towards the center, and on areas where I would like it a bit darker, like along the edges of the gums and around the teeth. This is the painting tip for this episode. I can't stress enough, I don't recommend getting speed paints on your fingers. It can be quite difficult to remove. You are welcome. Let's move on to the teeth. I use bone white as the base coat. Next I apply Seraphim Sepia. I used the red and purple mix of the speed paints and applied it to the gums, or whatever this is. I imagine this is some kind of gum that holds onto the teeth, and when the worm is not busy killing stuff, it subtracts its teeth. The speed paint is dry and I highlight the teeth using bone white. I dry brush the big teeth. And for the small teeth I use the brush. For the spike on the tail, I use bone white as the base coat. I follow up with the red and purple glazes used in previous steps. Next, I apply Seraphim Sepia on the spike. And apply highlights with bone white by dry brushing. I follow up with a small amount of highlights with a brush on the very edges. Now I proceed to the base. As usual, I use speed paints and mix them on the base as in previous episodes. I use orc skin, sealed yellow, hardened leather and graveler grey. I use Bone White, Uriel Yellow and Caliban Green for the highlights on the base. These colors are applied randomly with a focus on adding green and yellow to the roots to make them stand out, and Bone White on the stone parts. After highlighting the base, I coated the model in matte varnish to protect the paint and for a matte finish. Next, I mixed 10 parts gloss varnish and 4 parts glaze medium. I applied this varnish on the areas I would like to appear shiny to make it look like some kind of saliva. On the tail bit, all the wounds, and the mouth. And for the final step, I add some tufts to the base. And with that, the miniature is complete. Let's have a look at the final result. I hope you enjoyed the video and perhaps learned something new. If you found this content interesting, you can support me by sharing the video, leaving a like and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon. I hope I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep one hand on the miniature and one on your brush.